Kumlan and Ablat Gemara. Today's daf is daf Chav Dalet Amid Aleph, and we're finishing the second page of Gittin and beginning of the third. We're talking about a different dinim of Gittin, and we're up to here. The last thing in the Mishnah said was that the Isha, the wife herself, can bring the get, but if she does, she has to say before Necht. The obvious question is, if she's bringing the get, she's already up to get. She's divorced. Who do you have to say? When do you say before Necht? So what it asks Chav Dalet Amid Aleph, about 8 lines or 9 lines on the top of the page by the two dots. Isha Atzamavia, Isha, Moti Gitiliad, as soon as the get came to her hand, Igarshala, she's divorced. So where's the Fananechta coming in? And in fact, if she wants to throw away the get and burn it, it doesn't make a difference. The only reason why she still needs the get in her hands is only for a raya to prove that she was divorced. We come to Fananechta, she's not a shliach. So Gemara says, interesting case. Amar Avuna when the husband said, I'm giving you, I'm handing over the get, but I don't want you to be divorced yet. I want you to go back home. I want you to go back for that bezin and present to them the get. Says the Gemara, as soon as she arrives at that place where he asked her to go, she completed her shlichus. She's now divorced right then and there. So she's not a shliach. She is now divorced herself. So Igar Shabbat, she was divorced with this get that she received back then from her husband. So this is merely a tonight. The husband said, I'm giving you the get now, but I don't want to take effect till you come before that besan. So where does before the necht? The necht is only regarding a shliach. The said to her the following thing: when you arrive there, I want you to snache out to place it on the ground, and then so you end your shlichus, and then take it as if I gave it to you. Says the Gemara, if so, that's what happened, and therefore she has to say before the necht, because now she's no longer, she has to not pick up the get. So when she puts it on the ground, she's like the shlich. She says before necht, she would not be divorced. Why not? Because this is an identical case to tili gitich malgav karka. Take the get from the ground, and she's not divorced. It's not worth it because the Torah says, "No, son, you have to give it to her." Here she's taking it. Ella, what happened was the Omar, you know why she has to say before Necht, because she's still a shlich. How can she still be a shlich and be divorced? The Omar said to her, Havi shlich lilocha, I want you to represent me, be the shlich lilocha, add the motis house until you arrive there. But the chi motis house, when you arrive there, then Havi shlich likabbalah, you yourself you transform and become the shlich likabbalah. So therefore, you're a shlich, and then when you're giving it to yourself, you have to say before the bezdin, for the necht. And then you will accept your get. Says the Gemara, in order for shlichus to work, she has to finish a job and be able to come over back to her husband and say, I fulfilled my job and I'm still, I'm the shlich and I did my job and that's it. But if she becomes a shlich kabbalah, then the shlich locha no longer exists because she is the same person. Therefore, she becomes part of the shlichus, and as a result of that, it's not a valid shlich because she cannot come when she gives it to herself, say, I did my shlichus, because she's already another person. She's now the shlich kabbalah. The shlich locha doesn't exist anymore. You know what happened? The Omli said to her, you be my representative. Adam matis hasam till you go there. The chimatis hasam, when you go there, then shavi shlich kabbalah. Then I want you to appoint a shlich kabbalah. So therefore, appoint another person. And when you're appointing that other person, then you have to say, because you're concluding the shlichus, you say before necht. Says the Gemara, not everyone agrees that a woman can be a shlich l'kabbalah to accept from, if a woman can send a shlich l'kabbalah to accept from the husband shlich le'elacha. And why not? We'll see in a minute. Is that a woman has every right to prepare to make a shlich l'kabbalah in order to receive from the shlich le'elacha is fine. Ella Lemando Amar Eina Isha is a Shlikabel Gittin Shlibaila, but the one who says that a woman cannot be makabel from the she cannot send a shliach in order to receive from the shliach her husband. What are you going to say? That you tell me that she has to appoint another shliach? Well, how's that going to work? She's taking it from herself, where she is a shliach of the husband. Now, what's the problem? So it depends. What's the reason why she cannot appoint a shliach to accept from the shliach of the husband? Time of my. If the reason is according to those who believe the ikka bezoin about the husband gets insulted, you don't want to take from my shliach, you have to send another person. But in this case here, the husband is the one who instructed her to send to appoint a shliach kabbalah. So there's no bezoin, there's no shame, then it should be all right. He doesn't care. That makes sense only if you believe that's the reason, because the husband will be insulted. But the one that says that the issue here is because it looks like it should be similar to a case if there's a shliach kabbalah, shliach loch, if the husband, where Rashi learns, the husband takes the shtar, the get, places in a third party's chutzah, and then the wife buys that chutzah. So that chutzah is like the shliach lehiloch of the husband. The wife has the chutzah, the shliach kabbalah, and therefore it should work. You would think it's the same thing, but it isn't, because a chutzah is not a shlich, it's a yad. And we said the husband has to place it in the hand of the wife, but he's not. He put it in the chutzah, and then she's taking it at somebody else's chutzah, and then somebody else she's buying it from. If that's how Rashi learns. Trace is saying that no, it's talking about that the husband actually put the shtar. Let's focus on Rashi. So therefore, that's the reason why we don't want her to have a shliach like Kabbalah in order to accept from the shliach of the husband. So what's going on here? So you know what happened here? I'll give you the example for them. The Hamallah, he said to her, "Have a shliach halacha. I want you to be my shliach at the matis house until you arrive to that city. But the chimatis house, when you arrive at that destination, shavi shliach halacha. I want you to point a shliach, but not to represent you, to represent me, because one shliach is allowed to point another shliach, even 100 shluchim. So you make a shliach halacha, and then that shliach will give it to you. And when you appoint that shliach halacha, that's when you say b'fanei nechta in front of Bezdin. And you will take your get from that person. Or better yet, he said to her, have a shliach halacha ad be my shliach till you get there. So when you get there, I want you to go to the Bezdin b'fanei nechta u'masher beidin shliach. I want you to make the Bezdin the shliach, the leisun elach, and give it to you. Hadna loch, I made the get. I'll continue learning the laws about Shema when it comes to the Gemara. Any get that was written did not have the specific woman in mind. Puzzle is puzzle. Ketzah, what's the example of that? You're walking down the street. You heard the voice of different scribes. They were reading out, calling out, Ish, Pliny, Megadish, Pliny, this person is divorcing that woman, then playing with that city. But I said, oh, wow. By chance, it's the same names that I have and my wife has. I will use this get. Zeshmi, Mishti, but he cannot use this get because it wasn't written specifically for him and his wife. Next case, yes, and McCain. More than that, a bigger chiddush. He actually did write a get to divorce his wife, and never nimlach. He changed his mind. So the get was written as a proper get. He changed his mind, and he had a friend who has an identical name to him, and his wife had an identical name, and he offered them that get. So this wasn't stam written, as we'll see later. This is the first case in the Mishnah that was written just for training. This was written for the purpose of a get. He met a fellow neighbor. He said, we shared all the names, so why don't you use a get? Possibly got it, because he didn't write it for that person, so it's possible to divorce with that get. Yes, McCain, even a bigger chiddush. He's married to two women who have identical names. If he wrote the get to divorce the older one, because since he had in mind another one, he cannot use it to divorce the younger one. Sounds like he could use it to divorce the older one, and we'll talk about, but he cannot use it to divorce the younger one. So it's a bigger chiddush. He actually wrote the get for himself, and that remains the same. And the wives have the same name, and it's his wife. Still, because it's a different wife than he had in mind, can't use it. And nothing before. Yes, he gave me a bigger chiddush. I have two wives, the same name. I cannot live with both. I have to divorce one. I'll choose later which one. Do we apply the rule of Yesh Breyer that will say that when he chooses later, all along, that's the wife that he wanted to divorce? Possibly, but he cannot use it to divorce. Says the Gemara. If he wrote to divorce his wife, isn't the first case the same thing that he wrote for himself, that somebody wrote for their wife and then they changed their mind? What's the difference in the first case and the second case? I'm going to pop it up. The Sefer of Islam is the first case talking about they were just doing training, and there was no intention to write a proper get at all. I'm going to prove it to you. Tanya is a Sefer Makid, the Sefer reading out to the other people that tell them what to write. Like Tanya is Sefer as if they're reading out loud what they're writing themselves. They're training others. Shema, no good proof. My yes became what's the bigger chiddush? In the first case, you were just training purposes, no divorce. You had no intention for a real divorce. Case number two, you wrote it for your wife, proper gerushin, except you decide not to use it, somebody else should use it. Possible. So that's a bigger chiddush because it's written properly as a get. And furthermore, whether today, in that case, at least case number two, it was a different husband and wife who wrote it. In case number three, you wrote it for your own wife, but now you want to use it for the second wife who has the same name. Puzzle. It's a bigger chiddush because you're the same person and you wrote it for your family. And the fourth chiddush is you didn't write it for any divorce. Not only in this case here, he didn't write for her. Her apostle. In case number four, in that you wrote it. Now we're going to case number four. You wrote it, and we're going to explain about it later because we don't believe in Bereda. Says the Gemara. Yeah. My timer. So let's go through all the reasons. What is the reason that the get is not kosher? Says the Gemara in all of these cases. Why is it kosher? He wrote a proper get. So the Gemara if it would have said v'nosan sefer krisi, just give her a get. I mean, I would have thought the only case that's no good is the first case. It was never written for the sake of divorce. The law of the was never written for divorce. Intended to write divorce. One couple and another couple use it and he changed your mind. The other this is written for divorce. A real divorce. Aim of kosher. You think it's kosher? They said kosher the Torah is because Taylor, by adding the word because you should write. So therefore we know that you have to write it for the person you want. Because I was told them what they hide let you cook us yes, like they know she only in the case we did write for your wife. But we would have thought in the case we have two wives. And the even cook us you wrote it. So you talk it didn't cost you're still gonna use it, but for the different wife for the same name, Abel kosher, you would think it is kosher because you have to have, if you have two wives in the same name, you have to have the specific wife in mind. Is the same from the last case where you had nobody in mind. In a way, it's worse. You had two wives, same name, you decide later. That's maybe worse. No, name Breda. You would have thought that later on I could sort out which one I want and was retrospective. I tell you, no. Taisa says that generally the machlekes, if we say yes, Breda, could be that everyone in this case will agree that ain't Breda, because the Torah clearly says because at the time of writing it has to be law. You have to have the shmot. Then the mission says, because we found the future for the mission is the other one. You see, the time of limits in Megara, but you cannot use the other one. Hoping to limits in Megara, but you can use the older one, even though they both have the same name. Okay, you're the one husband, but if the woman later will try with a get, how do we know that it was really her get? Maybe it fell out from somewhere, it's not really her get. And maybe it fell out really belonged to the other wife. Interesting. If the two Yisem and Shimon, that don't be right. Two Yisem and Shimon, two people the same name, live in the same city. Like, either one of them can produce a contract saying that somebody owes me money. And we're not going to say, oh, maybe you dropped, some of the other Yisem dropped it and you picked it up and used it. We're not worried, just like over here. If this woman has the get in her hand, we're not going to say, oh, maybe it came from the other wife. That's what he wants to prove from here. Says Abaya, it'll be hard to follow your logic. Aisha, the previous case, the Tanya says, look, I wrote a get for my wife, I changed her mind. Possibly got it, but you cannot use it. It seemed that the second couple, the ones written for them, cannot use it, but the first couple, but you can use it. But over here, you have two people with the exact same name. How do we know which husband is giving the get to this one? To be the same name, it's like you're having one lender and two borrowers, and the thing is he cannot collect from either one because each borrower can say, it's not me, go to the other guy. And over here, it seems that you're telling me that it would have been a valid get. How does this woman know from her husband? Maybe how could she prove her husband? Maybe the other guy gave it to her. Well, we need to be saying that they actually cannot go ahead and nobody can demand from them money because each one can say it's the other person. What are you going to say? When does it start effective? Adim said Adim saw the writing of this document, so they know exactly which one is meant for. And by again, they know exactly which one is meant for. But Abulazi is how can I make so to the case that you're talking about, when you have two wives talking about over here, that the reason why we say it came from this woman and that she's not the one who dropped it and she picked it up, and because we're Adim and sin, and they know exactly which woman was divorced.
Now that we say that all this getting apostle that are good are they totally ineffective, or do we say that there is a little bit of tinge of a get in that what that she's forbidden that ever if he dies, he can never marry a kohen because maybe she was a little bit divorced. And all these cases here, the get is valid written for the purpose of a get. So even though she's not divorced, she needs another divorce. The husband has to die, but she cannot marry kohen. The first case when they're up for training, there's no divorce there. Shmuel says, even the first case, it is possible it's still like a divorce. Shmuel is consistent with his view. Shmuel said, anyway, Chacham said, get possible. In other words, Chacham say the get is possible. They don't say it's not a get. They don't say ain't a get. They say possible. That means that something's still there. Possible, place it is possible, but also passes away. Chalitza, and same thing when we say chalitza by a woman, and let's say doesn't marry a brother-in-law for husband died of children, but she gets chalitza. When it says the chalitza psula, they did it in a way which is disqualified, which is also disqualified for our brothers. The Marava in a trial they say, smile, using the putting on the left foot to shoe, Lila doing at night, it's not a proper chalitza, but a place that she can no longer marry any of the brothers. You're not going to build a house, and you try to go through the motion of building a house, so she cannot live with any of the brothers, she must get a chalitza. But a cotton, if there was a child, that she did a chalitza on a cotton or a pilly, didn't use a proper shoe, you suddenly made out of cloth, they are psulas, the other places, nothing happens. So therefore, she can still marry one of the brothers, the older ones. Zidi disagrees, and he says, they place all the examples in the Mishnah, they don't possibly no get here at all. The very last case of Abraham, in that case there, because there you wrote it for your wife and you couldn't leave the proper get, you just said later on you're going to sort out. And since we're going to follow the opinion that says maybe we'll say yesh brera, so maybe it is a proper get, so she cannot marry a kohen. Other cases, you don't get here whatsoever. Nothing passes in the last case. And Rabbi Yechon says, this is the opinion before, that even the fourth case, he says clearly ain't berera, and therefore there's no get whatsoever. It doesn't disqualify at all for her to marry kind of the husband dies. Consistent about Sabirchen about Achin Shechot with two brothers divided in the state. How do you know he ended up with your share, maybe end with your brother's share, vice versa? Come to Abel, what do we do? He says, if the buyers come to Abel, we have to redo it again. Because how do you know he ended with your property? Maybe you ended with your brother's property and vice versa. So once you have the principle of Breda, why do you have to give us examples? If we only said by getting a Breda, I would say, but how come only over here is a Breda? It's an exception. Even if you hold generally yes, right, here's an exception. The Torah says because of them, at the time of writing, you need to know exactly who it's for. When it comes to Yerusha, sales, when we say comes to Yerusha, we have to redistribute. The Yerusha of inheritance or gift. The Yashmina Soda, in the case of Soda, I would say, no, what's the big deal? Come to you have to reassess whatever you change around. Let's go back to where it was in the beginning. Here, when it comes to a woman, if you're going to say that there's no brainer, what you're really saying is that over here by women, you say that that it's you're gonna be made. You're gonna say that there's no brainer whatsoever. So there's no get at all. Here you're going to be makel. You're going to say that she can marry a kohen husband dies. We said we can go that far to be makel. Maybe it wouldn't be machma. We say brand. If we tell you that we are makel completely, in other words, we say completely ain't brand. Okay, have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow with your session.